was brought to my attention that this is going longer, and so if we can try and stay on topic, and then we'll keep moving through to each next item. I will say though that with each year, let's say you decide in the events, for example, to put on an event. Well, if that's going to happen every year, then that doesn't mean you have to add an event every year, because that's already going to carry forward. So you can just agree with the fact that it's already there now. You've already made that decision. Same thing with the reserves on this account. That's not going to come up again in the next year's discussion. That's only happening now because we have the reserve here now. So after 23-24, which is as I said, a very busy year. After that, it will should be a lot smoother sailing. Okay, so we left off with the three projects or use of and we're left with at the moment $55,000 in reserve. Then there was a suggestion for other projects that we may want to use the reserve fund for. Now, it's just the utilization of the reserve fund. That's all we're talking about now, not other projects that we want to take on, unless we want to do a project that's going to be funded by the reserve. Was there any other suggestions for more projects in the 23 for to come up with? And if not, we'll end up going back to the the expansion reserve. Was there any other projects out of the reserve that you had suggestions for this year? For use of? Okay, so is everybody in agreement that we go back to the number one item again? You had said at the very beginning that we're not going to attach a number to it yet until we see the rest of the things that were being proposed for the 65,000. Right now, there's only $10,000 out of that 65,000 reserve that is being utilized.
Sorry, Bob. It's just underneath. Like, there's still events and website improvements for 2024. Like, do we have enough money set aside for the website? Like, I guess that's my only question.
Yes. Anything that's in 2023 that's already on that document is already budgeted for. However, 24-25 is not.
Okay.
That's going to be your decision when it comes to the budget.
Okay.
Now, if you add an event in 23-24, then that's not budgeted.
Okay.
So we're back to the expansion. Did you want to put some money? You said you wanted to have a reserve fund. Did you want to put some money out of the current 65 into that expansion reserve?
Would be not the current 65 for the
Correct.
Okay. My gut is to not go blow it all and then be stuck down the road with, environmental disaster or, beyond that. So I would say my thing, we need 50% and keep that at 50%.
50% of the 55 that's left go into that. So why don't we do the numbers a little better and just say 25?
Half and half,
so
yep.
You're saying that we would do 25 out of the reserve. Did you want to do any monies on an annual basis? No?
So that would
No
be for
suggestion?
the.
That's just one suggestion.
So that would be something that we would budget for the 24-25.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we need to put something aside. It's just a matter of how
Right,
much.
and you don't have to, if depending on the amount that you put in there, at this point, let's say you go with 25. That's 25,000. If we put 25,000 into the expansion reserve, it would sit there, And then you can decide during next year's budget if you want to
Adjust.
add money to it each year, or if you decide, well, we still have 30 left in the big reserve, let's throw another 5,000 in there this year, or maybe.
Right.
It's just, yeah, I mean, we've already talked about this, we're growing,
Yeah,
25,000 isn't much,
it's not.
it's not. It'll buy you a shell or something, maybe.
No, but this is considered to be the start
Yeah,
of the
Yeah.
reserve.
yeah,
We don't know how much it will cost. And if it ends up somehow falling into our lap that we don't need it, we can always use the money for something else. So far I have 25 out of the reserve.
I guess the thing is, like the original reserve, the original 65 that we're down to 55, that was originally set aside for an expansion, correct?
It was envisioned, well, first of all, there was no 65 reserve. We had said, when we started, we said, in order for us to get into the MGA requires office situation, we will probably need $100,000. Do you remember that? However, then certain things happened in our evolution where we were getting monies from other places that we had not known about. That came in that we were starting to build up a reserve, well, a surplus. And at some point, council said, well, we're starting to build up a significant surplus because of what's going on. So let's throw some of monies into a reserve so that we can get a higher interest rate. That money then went into GICs. So it's sitting there creating a higher interest rate in the reserve. Okay. The only reason that the money ended up being the surplus that it is because we thought we would have to purchase a place, or that we would have to have some major renovations, or that we would have, there was any number of things that were going to cost. We thought we'd have to do a lot of things, buying equipment that would cost $100,000. That was the initial estimate. Then what happened is we found this place, and suddenly monies that we thought we would need for the council area was not required. That was covered in the lease. The money for the rental was for renting the office. We could manage that on our budget because back in 2018 we said let's do a 1 cent increase on our taxes so that we can cover the rent when we get there. And that happened. So ultimately the short answer is that we ended up with a surplus. We turned that surplus into a reserve fund, and we said, let's use this reserve for something the council decides they want. It originally was going to be used for an office, and now you can use it for whatever you want. This suggestion is for future expansion now. So with the 25,000 and not budget anything else, and you can have that discussion again during budget, or do you want to do anything more then?
I'm happy with that as well. It's just going half or almost half. It
Yep.
kind of eliminates. Let's put 10,000. Let's put 30,000. Let's just and then see how it goes.
Okay, so Trish originally suggested 27,500. How's that?
Yes.
Do you want to stay with that?
Seeing as Ashley's already typed it,
I can change it.
25.
Okay.
It does not.
I can easily change that back.
Yeah, I don't think there's any risks. I think that's
No.
fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine with 27,500 or 25,000?
25,000. It's an even amount. Keep it simple. I don't think there's any risks.
So we'll put that in.
Yeah.
If you decide, once you are looking at the document, If you decide later on to say, okay, I want to vary, adjust it, whatever, you have that right before you pass the strategic plan. And then, again, these things end up going, well, if there's monies on a regular basis, will end up in the budget. Otherwise, it will just show up in the budget, is that there's 25,000 in the reserve for expansion.
Great.
Okay, so let's move on to the next area, which is the events.
There we go.
Events for 23, 24. These are already events that we are committed to doing, that we are doing already, and or that we as a municipality participate in. Now, that does not include events that are going on in the municipality that we might give funds to. Belfast Days comes to mind. We have nothing to do with the organization of that, or even RMB is not there putting on a bouncy castle or anything like that. However, there's a lot of things that we do in the community grants where we give monies to things like that. These events are things that we actually do. The Kilted Base, we sponsor a horse blanket every year. That happens in September. The Halloween, we actually work with YDAC. We give away a whole bunch of Halloween candy and stuff like that. Remembrance Day, we attend 2 different Remembrance Day ceremonies, and we also give wreaths. The Christmas tree lighting happens in late November, and that's where we light up the whole courtyard, and we have usually some singing of carols and Santa Claus and stuff like that. To be determined. But the idea is to set up a Christmas tree and the courtyard, fill it full of lights, and they normally stay on for the month of December and probably January. And then we normally shut them off in February. Islander Day, that happens in March, we participate in. Again, that's with WIADAC. They have some events, and what do we sponsor them with? Well, we give them some money to help put on the Islander event. So that's what we have on now for events, and that we have budgeted for. The budget that we passed in 23-24 does not account for any other events, but for 24-25 we can budget for whatever new event you want to suggest. So the question is, for this year, for 23-24, are you happy with the events that we're putting on? And maybe you want to do something less, something more?
Personally, I think we have enough on our plate for this year.
Okay. Taking hits. Everybody's okay with that? Okay. So let's move on. Also, what is committed and ongoing in the budget is website improvements. That's an ongoing thing that we do all the time. That is in the budget. Unless you have some ideas of how you want to expand the website more than that. Jim?
I have a question on that. Who owns the domain?
Well,
Do we own the domain? We've got control of the domain? Or
We
we got
pay
a
for
company
it.
doing it for us?
we pay.
You pay for it, but do you own it? Big difference.
I don't own it. It's owned by
So-
RMB and it's managed by a third party. So
Right.
that's
So
how it
we have
works.
access to the website, and you can log into the website, make changes to it on that FTP site.
Yeah, actually, the agreement that I set up with Technomedia, is that we wanted them to set up a website for us. I had said to them, I want to be able to go in and make changes if I want. And she said, well, you can do that if you want. However, I'd be happy to do it for you. And it's worked out because of the work quote that we have, it's worked out more advantageous to us to just say, could you do this, could you do that, and she does whatever we ask, whenever we ask.
And cost.
Well, as you pointed out in the last budget, our cost for the website is minimal.
It's gonna be a cost either way, right? Because either we're
Right.
paying someone to do it or we're paying someone
Or I have
on
to-
staff.
If we
Yeah.
did
Or
it
it's extra
ourselves,
hours.
I would now
Yeah.
have to hire somebody for more hours, because as we pointed out earlier, we're already doing more hours than we're getting paid for.
And you know, it's taken care of and professionally done.
Yeah, by a professional.
Yes, absolutely.
So, was there any changes to the website that people wanted to do other than what's happening now? We are continually looking to improve it, just as we see things, just like we did this year. We did, this already, we added an events calendar, a photo calendar, all those things are going well in the regular website monitoring and, website feeding of information to the provider, and that's ongoing. So, I'm very pleased with the relationship we have with the, website provider, and I'm very pleased with how much it's costing us. And you were too, because you passed the budget. So,
Yep.
so if that's okay, we can move to the next item. And then also what is happening is we're doing Facebook live stream improvements on an ongoing basis. We're looking at sound quality improvements. We're looking at video quality improvements. That's what we're planning. Garth said yes for ongoing live stream improvements with a yearly budget of $1,000. He would like to add in $1,000 for continued Facebook improvements. That means sound, video, and or whatever else. As you know, any kind of social media interaction, technology changes all the time, and that may or may not be there. He wants to add to the budget $1,000. Having said that, the only reason it's there is that when I do up the budget next year, if I know that council really likes the idea of improving the Facebook, then I have to build it into the budget. So this just gives me a heads up. However, you as a council are the ones that are voting on the budget. So if after $1,000 here, $500 here, $5,000 here, you say, well, in order to achieve what you said you wanted to do for the strategic plan for 24-25, we're going to have to raise taxes, or eat up the surplus, or eat up some reserve, or whatever. That's your decision when we do the budget. And I'll have all that information by then. When I add in this $1,000, and I add in whatever else, at the end of the day, I'll have a figure for you that's going to be brought forward to the budget, and that's what you're going to vote on for the strategic plan, but more importantly, you're going to vote on that decision for the budget in the next fiscal year. So Garth is saying, yes, continued improvements for the live stream, and I'd like to put it in the budget for $1,000. Now, yeah, I should say that when you put in $1,000 to the budget, let's say the budget for Facebook was $2,000, and you put in $1,000 this year into the budget, into 24-25, you put into the budget. So that means the line item for Facebook is now $3,000. Well, that stays there every year from that on, and you've already set the tax rate to be able to meet your budget requirements. If you carry on with, you're not actually adding another 1,000 each year. You've added the 1,000, which makes it 3,000, and that basically carries on until you change it. Okay? So now you're looking at a budget of $3,000 for the live stream. Just an example. I don't know the actual number at the moment. $1,000 is basically an initial bump so that we can work on getting the video better and the sound better. Anybody else have a counterpoint, suggestion?
I have absolutely no idea what it costs to upgrade the sound. What does it mean? Like microphones and stations or what?
I'm going to, the plan is that I'm gonna have a discussion with, who are they called again?
Along the McQuaid.
Long McQuaid. I've already had a preliminary discussion with him. We may be able to achieve that by simply having 2 microphones, one here, one here. They may be able to pick up the sound quality enough so that when we do the Facebook live streaming, they can hear everything. If that's not going to work, if, like we had to do in another council I was on, there was a mic at every station. Okay? But that's problematic as well, because then you need somebody to control the mic or turn off the mic or whatever. So right now we think you might be able to control that by getting a mic system, a PA system basically, where the mic is sitting in the, 2 mics are sitting in the room, and we'll see how that goes. Well, actually we'll get an assessment from Long McQuaid first. So that's what that could mean. The video, on the other hand, that's what I was talking about with technology changing all the time and improving. Because the cameras nowadays, like this live stream, you could never have done that 5 years ago. 2 years from now, who knows? Maybe this is old technology.
This is already old technology.
Oh, it's already
My
old.
phone, by the way, this is an old technology. Like, it's not upgraded.
Another thing that, you know, as a council, should we be using Ashley's personal phone?
Right.
We really should be having
Which is what the
the
$1,000 would.
right.
Yes.
The equipment should, like, you shouldn't have to use your personal phone for something like
I
this.
agree. I don't enjoy doing that, but it's, you know, as part
I
of
appreciate that you are willing to do that, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Because it allows us to do this, but I think,
Right.
you know, definitely not only looking at the sound and the quality, but I would like to see you not have to use
Yeah.
your phone, because that's wear and tear on your phone.
And also, if I'm not here, like, you know,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, you guys should have that you should have that capability to do that on your own without me.
Absolutely.
So thanks for that, Trish, because that leads to the argument of what Rick, Garth had suggested, that we put the $1,000 in there so that the $1,000 would allow us to
We
be
need
able
to be able to
to
do
buy a
that.
phone.
Yeah.
I guess my only concern is that that would be for next year, right? Next year's budget. Like I thought that we were going to take some from the reserve to use for getting this set up.
No, there's a certain amount of money that we are, I have budgeted for some improvements. What Garth was talking about is throwing the $1,000 into next year's budget and bring it up. Okay, so you're right. We're gonna try and see, we're gonna do all the research that we have. If we can find a way to do it within the budget we already have, we can do it later. If not, we still, that won't cover, for example, buying our own phone, but the $1,000 for next year's budget will.
Yeah.
So, you're in agreement with that, with Garth is suggesting? Billy, you're shaking your head, Lynn?
Yes.
Jim? Okay. Trish, Garth suggested,
Oh,
and Kathleen, you did? Okay, so we'll carry on with that suggestion. If you want to go up, the social media growth and exposure, we have no idea. Somebody said before, well, let's get on to this and let's get on to that. For 23, 24, we're suggesting no change, but being aware of the things. So next year there may be a proposal for something, and or depending on the human resource time that we have, I will never agree to Twitter. However, that's not my decision. So,
I'm going to choose Twitter.
so anyway, so for the social media growth and exposure, I'm just leaving it blank for now unless you were insisting that we should do something else. No? Okay. So let's go, okay, the one, or not the last one, is the advocacy. We do this on an ongoing basis. We currently advocate, for example, if somebody says, could you give us a letter of support, can you do a letter of concern, is like,
Do you want me to name a name?
no, possibly
Okay.
no, the unsightly lands.
Yes.
There you go. Unsightly lands, or whatever else that people are asking us to do, like when
Like
Derek asked
restaurants.
us to talk to the minister about the dogs. So advocacy, we already do that
Yeah.
already, and that's done on an ongoing basis. Everybody's okay with just carrying on the way we're doing with that, and just as they come up, we advocate. Okay. Then we have the possible consultation on the new Canada Community Building Plan. Okay. As you know, the first gas tax cycle for us was 2019 to 22, and it's still pretty I say 24. That's to 24. That's basically going to carry on to 24. Okay. At the end of that, typically what will happen is the government will come out in 23, so probably December, and say, hey, we got a new batch of money. There's no guarantee that they will, but it's presumed that they will come out with another iteration of the gas tax money or the community building fund. If that does come out, then we will have to then go out and consult to the people in our municipality and say, hey, we got $350,000 in gas tax money. We want your proposals. Sometimes we get one proposal, sometimes we get 30 proposals, right? And then you as a council will decide how you want to give out that $350,000 based on the criteria that Canada Beach Infrastructure Secretariat set out. I'm only giving a heads up on that is because I have not heard it yet. It's not budgeted for that public consultation, extra advertising, and human resource time that we gotta do, but there's a possibility that that will happen. So that is more just a heads up. There's no real decisions that we have to do on that unless you tell me, hey, we don't want any more gas tax money. I don't think you can say that. So basically that's just left in there as a placeholder, is saying that it's quite possible that the human resource time is also going to be taken up back this year, and possibly some fiscal budget stuff. Okay. We're next on to the new initiatives for 23-24. As we talked about earlier, our plate is so full for 23-24, we're suggesting that you don't take anything new on this year. Give us a chance to, like for 24-25, you'll say, hey, we want to do this or that or whatever. Then I can make sure I get staff. I can make sure we have resources, budget for it, whatever. But right now we've already got a budget set and a huge workload. So I'm suggesting that we're at capacity already and that we don't take on any new initiatives for 23-24 unless you really think that we should. Is everybody okay with the current workload?
Yes.
I'm not.
I was gonna say, are we though?
Anyway, having said that, okay, actually moving right along. Okay, we're now on 24-25. So, remember what I had said, that when you now look at 24-25, there's already things that you're doing that are ongoing. You're already doing the community grants program. You're already now going to do the official plan launch or completion, depends on where the project is. The municipal emergency plan now needs to be updated because we have new council members and certain council members were on the MAP plan with jobs or whatever. Plus it has to be updated every couple of years anyway. So that is going to be on the agenda to update that.
So does that mean that it's going to go to committee members and whatnot until 2024?
We are in discussions with Jill, who's looking at the MOU, who's looking at the MENT plan. There is some training that is being suggested, and we may be able to make some adjustments. I don't know yet, because Jill is preoccupied at the moment, but she has continued to commit to doing the MENT stuff. So that one's a bit up in the air. We'd like to try and update it as soon as possible. But regardless, if that's not possible this year, then it has to be done next year for sure. But along with this municipal emergency update, we also have to do an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the Belfast Rec Center. Warming Center #1, because they now have the generator, they now have all the kitchen repairs done, they'll have it installed. Everything will be ready to go for them to operate as a warming center if required. But for us to use them as the #1 choice for warming center for RMB, we have to do an MOU with them, just to say what we're expecting them to do and all that.
Absolutely.
The same thing would happen later on down the road when we get to a second warming center. We have to do an MOU. Garth says yes on the MOU with the Belfast Rec Center, so he's fully in support of the MENT update and everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I would just like to, I mean, it is one of my top priorities.
So in Catherine's point, why don't we say sooner if possible? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go down to the next one again. Again, the events for 24-25 are the same ones that we had last time. However, during a recent meeting, somebody has suggested, why don't we add an event? So in 24-25, the suggestion was a meet and greet. I don't know what that was to entail. However, Councillor Bryson
I don't
brought it
remember.
up.
I saw that. I don't remember. It was actually Maggie Morrison who brought it up. I think it's a good idea. I guess I think the reason probably that my name's on there is because I wanted to see more of those social events, especially like coming out of COVID. Everything's a little fractured, so it would be nice to create some events moving forward, just to help bring everyone together. And there's a lot of new people.
So basically what would happen is if we decide to take on this event, meet and greet event, then it would now become a regular calendar event for our meet that we do every year. Some municipalities do a community picnic or whatever. You know, it's just something to meet everybody and socialize and more of a social gathering. So the council is involved. The ones that I was involved in, we would always, the councilors would flip hamburgers and hot dogs and walk around with balloons and stuff like that. It's a family picnic kind of event. However, so what would happen if you guys decide that you want to do a meet and greet? We would then do some research, get some ideas about what kind of meet and greet event this would be, when it should be. You know, we're not making any decisions now. We don't have any proposal in front of us. So I would work with Maggie and yourself, and work to build a proposal about what a meet and greet could look like and basically how much it would cost. I think.
Just do a levy.
What's that?
So most municipalities just do a levy at New Year's.
Yeah.
You just socialize, you do social stuff with politicians, so they have their strawberry social.
And that's what it could be as well. So we would look for ideas. If you like the idea of a meet and greet event, we would then go out to council and everybody and we would figure out, well, what should this other meet and greet, event, a levy or whatever, picnic, then keep in mind, okay, we have the Celtic Days in September, Halloween in October, we keep in mind the dates that we have already. And so then we say, okay, well, we don't want 5 events going on in December. You know, so if you like that idea, we can leave it on there. You don't have to figure out a budget yet. We'll just say yes or no, and then we'll start to research on it, and I'll figure out, based on the research that we get, what kind of money we should set aside. Does everybody like the idea of adding, whether it's a levy, a meet and greet of some sort? We'll finalize that with council. Adding another event that we sponsor. I see a nod from Catherine, Lynn. We also have to make sure we don't interfere with other events.
Well,
that are going on.
that's my concern, is
Right.
Belfast Days is supposed to be a huge meet and greet. It's a weekend event, and it's supposed to draw the community together, and it's family friendly, it's feasible. There's a lot of activities incorporated, and there's it's like, I'd like to incorporate new things each year to keep it enticing. Having said that, I don't want it, like, not take away from Belfast Days, but if people are going to a meet and greet in May, they may not need to go out to Belfast Days in June.
Well, I might give you another suggestion.
Okay. Yeah?
Because it is, like you say, the kind of community event where we're trying to bring everybody on.
Yeah.
What if RMB participates in Belfast Days where we do, I don't know, you know, so you become, yeah, you sponsor something, whether it's a bouncy castle or flipping hamburgers or hot dogs or whatever. You know, you could have that discussion where, because we want to be involved in, when you say that's what this is, then we could become part of that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that for the meet and greet, you don't have to decide that it should be a levy, picnic, or participation with the Belfast Days. I'm saying it's wide open. Why don't we look at options to do some sort of meet and greet and see what options do we have to make that happen?
I think, like, we already have so much and, like, already happening in the whole municipality. And like, I look at, you know, Halloween, all right, our first year here, we came out, we met counselors, came here, candy. We came to the tree lighting, we met counselors.
Singing and
Singing
great
and
voice.
everything, you know, so, and then if we, possibly Belfast Days, like, there's so much already opportunities for the public to meet and, you know, and making sure that they realize, hey, we're here, this is who we are, even at those events. I don't know that we need to add in another day, because as we add in more events, the events that we already have planned can potentially become diluted. And, you
Yeah.
know, I, with my busy schedule and kids running every whichever direction, you know, I would say, no, I can only do so
So you're
much.
suggesting that we've got enough already, and
I
we've
think
got
there's
other
already
things
enough
going on
opportunity
already.
at the current events to build up on that.
You're agreeing with Trish's point?
Yeah.
Belfast Days is for RMB as well. Like, I wanted RMB to be a part of this. Like, bring it on. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a separate thing. I would love to have everyone there from council and be there with me and give me that pat on the shoulder. And then it doesn't have to be a separate thing. Like, be there and have support.
Yeah. I
Right?
actually would love to
It-
see our
Yeah, like it's
sponsor something.
for the community. So I don't think it has to be like,
So other than
Yeah.
financial,
Yeah.
you believe that RB could participate more in?
absolutely, I would love that. And it has so much potential to grow. But there needs hands, there needs involvement, and that's what it's for, community involvement. And Belfast is RMB. So Belfast Days, it's for the community. It would only make sense to
Sure.
back it up. Thank you.
So basically, I've got
Go ahead.
two that say, don't add another event, and one that's saying,
Right,
let's
that's true.
participate more in one that's already there.
And
And what are you saying, Jim?
Oh, we don't need any more of those.
Okay, so you like, everybody like the idea of participating more with the Belfast Days?
I like that as well, like, I think no more events, and there's so many opportunities that, you know, not only can we do, you know, the Belfast days, but even, you know, the Christmas thing. Every time we are doing an event, it's our ability to be able to put our foot out there and say, hey, this is who we are, and put a name and a face together, so.
Well, we do have an event every middle of the month, so we actually, right here, you see how it's well supported by the community. Think about it, we say that they want.
Yeah, and then my only other suggestion is for the current events that we have, like they're all Wood Islands centered, which is great for people down here, but I'm on the other end of the municipality and there's no representation from our way.
Well, actually, that's not quite.
I mean, Remembrance
The
Day,
Remembrance
like,
Day
that's not-
is in Ione and
Belfast.
Belfast. Celtic Base is in South Quebec.
I just mean for like kids.
Halloween
like
is
family.
definitely light up. With
Like the Christmas tree is Island
Halloween
is
is
Wood Island.
so, and the Belfast Days, if you go that way,
Yes.
is in Silver.
Another thing to add. And like Belfast Days, there's a lot of work put into that already, so it's not like RMB has to sponsor another event. Like there's a lot of sponsoring that is already done to it. So it's
Yeah.
go and enjoy yourselves. Do you know what I mean? But another thing too, like with Kilted Pace, like Wednesday nights are racetrack night at Pennant Raceway too.
Right.
It'd be nice to see like some promotion of that during that season as well. That's another way people can get out and meet and greet. Is, yeah, go see our local harness racing
Actually,
too.
I was already
That's
going
what
with.
we already
Yeah. Yeah.
decided to do this year.
Yeah.
With the addition of the events calendar, and we're promoting it.
Yeah. Yeah, get more people out to see the harness
So,
races.
basically, to wrap up the discussion, we seem to have 4 people for sure that don't want a new event, but there seems to be a consensus that we could find a way to participate more with Belfast Days. Would that be the general consensus? Okay. Let's go on to the next. Continue website improvements. Yes, Garth says yes, continue website improvements. He says with a yearly budget of $500, I can tell you that that's probably right. Each year there's going to be additional, even if you're just talking about inflation. So that's probably going to happen anyway, just because of inflationary pressures and technology improvements, whatever. Or if we ask her to put more and more things on, spend more and more time, then the bill is going to get bigger. So I think that's reasonable and probably going to end up happening anyway.
You know what I just paid for my website this last year? Yep.
Basically, Garth saying the same thing about the live streaming, saying that it's probably, you already did the $1,000 that's going to go in there that may or may not be necessary. But if it's necessary, it'll be brought up during budget session. If not, then we won't need it. It'll only be put in the budget if it's required at the time. But he's saying if it is required, he's saying yes, you should put it in there. The same question again is the continued social media exposure. If there's some newfangled social media thing that comes out there that you think we should be on now, then we can look into that. But that would be as it arises, unless you know of something right now that you think we should look into.
What did you say?
I'm kidding.
Okay, and again on the agenda, same as before, is the continued advocacy. We do that already, but that's in your committee call, something you do. So then there's is some new things that came up during our council meetings. One of them was an animal control action bylaw of some sort, or actually, control bylaw / action. It may look for some legislation, it may look for some action or promotion. I had already spoke to the issue before about what it would take. You could do a 2-year process and look for a public referendum on whether to do a legislation, in which case you have to hire somebody as a bylaw officer to enforce. Or you can do the option where you do a public education option. Keep your dog on a leash, clean up after your dog, responsible dog ownership or animal ownership or whatever. So you can do a public relations campaign. That is something that probably would not cost any money. It would only cost human resource time. Oh, let me rephrase that. If it's something that we decide to do and it's going to cost a whole bunch of human resource time, then it will cost you money, because now I'll have to put in more hours or have somebody get paid for more hours to do it. Well, they actually. However, that is the most cost-effective action, especially when you consider that even if you put in legislation and things go to trial, oftentimes they get either thrown out or dismissed or given a light sentence.
That's both
With,
of them.
with a promotion campaign, you basically can get results right away and promote responsible ownership. And that's what
Garth said,
I like option B.
Yeah.
Another option could be a public awareness campaign talking about keeping your dog on a leash, licensing, pick up after the animal, etc. The option also have possible promotion, budget implications depending on the scope. So, for example, if you said, oh, geez, no, we want a really big promotion campaign, let's buy ads in the Belfast newsletter and the paper and whatever, then it could cost you some money. But you could do the option where it's just done in-house within the facilities, and it may cost us money depending on the extent of the campaign in human resource. Trish, I know you want to say something.
It's discouraging, both my comments. So, A, okay, you go through all this work and they don't get followed through. B, after seeing this past year repeat offenders with all different animals, from dogs to pigs to cows, that have repeatedly got out, and you see people calling them out on Facebook. So Facebook and social media is already educating these people that they're being idiots, and that the dog's going to cause an accident if it's on the road and getting hit by a car, and how many people swerved around it, and yet it's out there the next week. So, the responsible pet owners are already doing B. And we can do a campaign, which is wonderful, but I think it's just lip service, because the ones that are the idiots aren't going to listen to it anyway, which is so frustrating with our backgrounds of being RBTs.
It was the worst issue we ever had to deal with when I was on the council before. There's no solution to it.
Other than, educating, the other thing is that a lot of people don't understand that their province has dog at large policy, which means if they are affecting your livestock and they are threatening your livestock and on your property, you can shoot them. Awful to say.
And where I have seen dog bylaws, they're called dog bylaws, that actually work, are only in cities where they actually have a bylaw officer, a paid bylaw officer, who's allowed to shoot them. And or detain them if they're working with the SPCA. They can take them away from the owner and into the SPCA. But that is only in municipalities that have the resources of having a bylaw officer, and that's a paid force.
Here, I think you can contract with SPCA.
You can
I
contract,
don't know what they do, but they come out and look at it and do something.
right, so the contract with the SPCA as it stands is that they will go and talk to the person. They will say, hey, this is the problem, and basically say, this is, we're gonna monitor you or whatever. And if we think that we should bring charges, we will. So we have to contract the SPCA to be able to do that for us. And we have to have something in place so that they can do that. And then ultimately, they're gonna go talk to that person, and if the person says, well, forget it, I'm not gonna do any of that, then they can try and bring it forward. But in speaking with the SPCA, cases that they brought forward, the judges are throwing them out.
I think the SPCA requires complete licensing too for all dogs in the area, which I doubt there would be much compliance with that.
There
No.
would be.
And that doesn't cover, like last week, the pig, or this week, the pig running around.
And that's not even from our area, it just comes,
It just comes to our
it's
area.
from an unincorporated.
Yeah.
So, what can we do as a municipality? What we can do is that we can try and promote responsible ownership. Anything more than that is gonna cost a lot of resources, and you also have to get municipal resident buy-in. So if you're gonna put in a bylaw, or if you're gonna put in legislation and or things that you're gonna actually have to go out with the public, see, for example, Billy said licensing, that means you're gonna have to do some sort of referendum. Are they gonna agree with the referendum? Likely not. So then you put in all that time and effort for nothing.
Could we,
But this is achievable. What about thinking about this as a stepping stone? Try this and see if there's some recommendations that come out of it. After trying it for 2 years, say, well, it's not working, it's still a problem, whatever.
Just putting the bill past them, right?
Yeah,
Everybody needs that.
yeah,
Yes.
we can do that. Our Garth's suggestion would go with option B. Is everybody okay with option B for now? As a starting spot? And then you can revisit it after. Then we,
Sorry.
let's see. Then we have a dark sky reserve, which is also a new proposal. Does everybody understand what a dark sky reserve is? They're concerned about people, there's a lot of new residences going in, people putting in a lot of lights. Some lights are shooting up, some use the solar light that shoots the lights down. But the reserve is suggesting that we have some sort of policy or bylaw or public promotion that suggests the dark sky reserve and tries to encourage people to keep the lights pointing down so it doesn't affect the dark sky, meaning seeing the stars, the photography, all that kind of stuff. Garth had said he votes no on a bylaw for dark sky reserve. The liability and safety factors would be too great, but he likes the idea of a promotional awareness campaign similar to what we just talked about with the dogs. We could do it with our in-house resources, and if it's something simple and we just promote it as a regular thing, and then there's probably not much in the way of budget costs. There may be some human resource cost payroll if it takes a few hours more a week or whatever, depending on the extent. But if we just try and keep it simple, promotion as a dark sky idea, then it's doable within the resources that we have, or at least the systems that we have. Like I said, by that time, for 24-25, we're taking effect on the human resource budget, and I'll let you know, and then you can decide that in the budget discussions.
I talked to Sherry about this before she left, and she said that Rock was willing to partner with an awareness campaign and if you want to do something.
Ashley will record the log thing, and we'll talk to Sherry and we can see what we can do. Okay, so let's go on to other. One of the things that Catherine had brought up was that the green funds, the Federation of Canadian Municipality FCM Green Funds, is a long-standing, mostly environmental green fund, environmental projects that they're looking to do across Canada, where the FCM will provide money to municipalities on projects that specifically are, well, free. Catherine, you said you had a couple examples from when you were.
Well, the one that they, of course, were highlighting was just the Southern Park solar project, because that was a one of a kind in Canada. So it was the first time anything like that had been done through a municipality. So obviously, I don't think we're ready for a $5 million solar park, but maybe.
However, there was also another suggestion that I heard from the public, and that was about, you know, how the island has a mandate to, for electric cars and whatever by 2040. And so what they're doing is they had already gone around and said, they gave me a call and said, hey, we're gonna install a bunch of charging stations. How many do you want at Wood Island or whatever? It's quite possible, I don't know for sure, it's quite possible that the FCM Green Funds might talk about installing charging stations throughout the municipality to help meet that electric car demand. So, for example, one idea was Cooper's. So, if you put, right now there are gas stations, but we also have a parking lot. So, if you went to Cooper's to charge your car, in the meantime, you can go to the liquor store, you can go to the grocery store, you can do whatever, because it takes 10, 15 minutes, so you can do that while you're there. So then it becomes a way to extend the grid for charging, and that's the goal, is to extend the charging grid across Canada, and in our case, across our municipality. Not just Wood Island, but then you can also do the Belfast Rec Center, and they can do it as a revenue generator for them. If they put in the thing where you charge your car, it costs you $20, whatever it is, and that revenue could go to the Belfast Rec Center. That's the theory at the moment, but it could also be, I don't know, the Women's Institute, wherever a crowd is gathered, the racetrack, wherever a crowd gathers and they're going to park for a while, you can park there, you plug in your $20, you can do this.
I think that's a cost shared thing, it's not 100% funding. Municipality has to put in a certain amount.
We would
In order to do a contribution.
This year we would have to do the research just to find
Yeah,
out.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is years ago.
Because one of the things that they were saying is the province was willing to chip in as well.
Years ago, something like this came up, and we took a quick look into it. At that time, the municipality, the town said we are not in business, we're not getting into not business. So what we did is we did the possibility of having BCBC or WIBC, they were both set up with the idea of them becoming the development arms for the municipality, of actually having a little bit of an attachment to it so that we can make an application where it looked like BCDC or WIABC is the development arm of the municipality. In name only, like there'd be no participation from the municipality other than putting forward proposals, but the financial side of it would all be taken care of by BCDC. So there is a lot of money available for it, and at the time that with BCDC we determined that there wasn't really a with their eligibility and their criteria that they had, there wasn't anything we could fit into it. And that may change a little bit now with move towards solar and the like. And I'm thinking of solar panel regeneration of electricity. I'm thinking of it at both WIA here and at BCDC where at the park where there's a possibility for revenue recovery.
Yeah, it's also for like retrofitting too, so if we were looking at the expansion of our office,
Yeah, so how would, how would council be, if, basically for 24-25, we look into doing some research into the FCM green funds criteria, and then if there's something that looks like it could be a good fit for the municipality, we'll bring it forward and you can decide at that time. So at this point, if you, since you don't have a suggestion for a project, we'll just do a commitment to do some research.
I think it's all on the website. I think I looked at it. Yeah, I looked at it.
And I still have some contacts there too, so.
I'd be curious to know like what scope of projects that would cover.
Yeah.
How,
And as Jim said, well,
Yeah,
it's on the
definitely.
website.
The way that you described it at the GM is as long as you can incorporate an energy efficiency into any project that they can
yeah.
get it under there.
Okay, so everybody seems to be okay with just doing some research at that time to see what the criterias are, and so we'll put that on the list for the 24-25.
I'm sure it's costly.
Okay, again, we're starting to get into some repeat now. The ongoing committed for 25-26 is the grants program, the official plan and development bylaw. That would be operations now at that point. Okay, and so whatever that takes. The MEP plan is ongoing, but now we're looking at a possible MOU for Wood Islands. If it's gone that way, we just put that in there as a placeholder, but that is definitely a work project if that happens. The same thing here, if in up farther, if in an earlier year we decide that we're going to do more, depending on our discussions with Lynn, participation in Belfast Days to have involvement. The only reason we would put it on there is to make sure councilors and RMB blocks their time to say, we're going to be involved. We're going to show up, we're going to do whatever it is we work on.
I'm gonna check mark. Decide everything from here to the end of the day, because I can't think that far in the future.
Oh yeah, no, when I do the minutes, for example, something that we said in 24-25, if it's carrying over to 25-26, I'll adjust the document. So now that it shows that. So, yes. Where were we at? Oh, events, we already talked about that. Continued website improvement, well, that's ongoing. Facebook live stream improvements is always ongoing. We're always looking for improvements.
Oops, sorry. Advocacy, social media.
Right. And then, again, if you decide at a later date, is there some other social media thing we should hang our hat on? Community advocacy is ongoing. Possible new initiatives. There were no suggested initiatives for the 26-27. I know you did there, actually. You skipped a whole.
Did I?
Skipped a
Sorry.
whole-
That's okay.
I know you.
However, the last 2 years basically the same thing. It's a carryover each year, we're doing the same things. It's just because we've now got the stage set. However, in 26-27,
Sorry. It's just, yeah, I'm not doing it on purpose.
Sure. Okay. Number 4. Preparations and implementation for municipal general election, November 2026. So, there's considerable amount of human resource time and your own time when you go door to door for the election. However, there's a general election at that time. So, there is a budget implication on that. It's approximately $50,000 if it's a full-blown election. And the general election will take place, and there's a lot of training that has to go on if there is an election, if you get an acclamation, it's supposed to be rare, but not around here. But if there is an election, then there is significant time and money that is involved. So keep that in mind. And then, so, next steps. So basically what's going to happen is we'll take this information, the notes that actually did, we will condense it down into a discussion draft minutes sort of thing. We will give them to council to take a look at. And then if council likes the draft minutes, and that's preliminary because you have to officially accept the draft minutes at some point. But if you like the preliminary draft minutes, we will take the draft minutes and I will adjust the strategic plan so that the two marry. And that will be put on our website so that people can take a look at it. And then the people and council will see what's there. We'll ask, does anybody have any comments? If they have comments, they can let us know. And then ultimately, they'll come to council for a decision to finalize the strategic plan. Does that work for everybody? Okay. Are we at this point moving to adjourn the meeting? Lynn, if you do the call for that. I'll hand it back to you, Lynn.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Councillor Carter to adjourn.
Adjourned.
Okay.
8:57 p.m.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for